Here we go.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com. Today we are coming to you from the Epic Review Situation Room, deep within the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina. I'm your speaker of the site, Brad Bell, and joining me today, as always, is...
Barbecue 17, Secretary of Toys and Action Figures.
All right. Welcome, Secretary of Toys, Jerry Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Bell.
All right, so today on the show, we are going to follow our usual format. We will, get into what we have been checking out this week, followed by the epic news items of the week, and then we will do our featured review, in case you couldn't tell, of Olympus Has Fallen, the newest kind of disaster thriller starring Aaron Eckhart, Morgan Freeman, and Gerard Butler, among others. So... anytime you want to reach us, you can reach us at thepicreview@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, just search TH Epic Review for breaking epic news daily. So, Jerry Reed, what have you been checking out this week?
Well, as you probably can guess, I am super stoked for G.I. Joe Retaliation. From a lot of fan sites, it's getting really good reviews. A lot of fan sites seem to be happy with it. People are seeing early showings. I'm going to be going as early as I can. If there's a Thursday night showing, I'll go see it. If not, I'll probably see it Friday afternoon. I'm super excited. But I think I've been pretty open in my my dislike for the action figures, the G.I. Joe figures that Hasbro has put out for Retaliation. They actually hit shelves last year, right before the movie. Hasbro didn't even know, the toy maker that owns the G.I. Joe property, they didn't even know that the movie was going to get delayed. So you had the first wave of figures, and of course, I think the biggest thing about G.I. Joe figures is they're always very highly articulated. They've always had more articulation than your standard action figure, even though they're only about 3 3/4, 4 inches tall. Well, this year, they've once again re-released a lot of the movie product that came out last year. There's been some good and there's been some bad. There's been some really bad figures that have come out. Some of the vehicle drivers actually only move at the shoulders, the hips, and the head. I mean, we're talking... that's what the original vintage Star Wars figures moved at.
In the 1970s.
Yeah, 1977, so 78. So these, some of them are pretty bad, but some of them are really good. I've only bought one so far this year. It was the 3-pack. And it has 3 figures with it. 2 of them are characters I don't think we're going to see in the movie. One of them's a character I don't think we're going to see in the movie. Sergeant Airborne. I think it was just a chance to kind of redo older character in a newer styling. Of course, one of them is a 187th version of Snake Eyes. The other one is Agent Mouse, who's played by Joseph Mazzello. Wasn't he Tim in Jurassic Park?
I'm not sure about that.
I think he actually was. And so he's apparently a character who's going to be in the movie, Agent Mouse. These figures are mainly reuse older parts of G.I. Joe figures and stuff from the last year or two, but they're assembled in really nice ways, new paint jobs. The set I have is called the G.I. Joe Tactical Ninja Team, which leads me to the only thing that I'm hesitant about G.I. Joe Retaliation. Everything looks like it is focused on ninjas, okay?
Yes, it does.
Roadblock, who The Rock plays, has always been a machine gunner. He was a heavy machine gunner, I think with like an M2 50 caliber machine gun. He was a chef. He was never a ninja. On this box, it has a picture of The Rock as Roadblock holding out a katana blade, and he has the Arashikage tattoo on his, his left bicep.
But we haven't seen anything from the trailers to indicate
we
The Rock
haven't,
wields
so
the
I don't.
Katana,
so I'm hoping that this was just made for the toys to sell toys, because in the comic and in everything, that Arashikage tattoo was always really special. It was like the thing that only Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and Jinx, only these these ninjas that spent years of their lives studying had it. And here's The Rock with this tattoo.
It's kind of like the WWE title. They give it to him even though he doesn't deserve it.
Sure, I have no idea.
That's what our good friend and wrestling consultant Evan Treelove always says.
Would say. Okay.
Yes.
So anyways, the figures are good. If you look around, you'll find figures that are pretty decent G.I. Joe Retaliation figures. They reuse a lot of parts. People call them Franken-Joes, because they kind of Hasbro mixes pieces together. But I finally bought the first set because I really wanted Agent Mouse and I really wanted the new Sergeant Airborne. I got another Snake Eyes. He's pretty cool.
And Jerry buying a 3-pack of these figures is really him holding back. I mean, you bought everything for G.I. Joe
Rise of Cobra because I like the figures. Even if I thought the movie was just okay, the figures were good. They had the same articulation, same detail, nice weapons. Some of the Retaliation stuff just infuriates me because Joe figures have been getting better and better and better, since like 2007 or even maybe 2005. They just got constantly improved, and all of a sudden they just kind of, took a step back to at least the 70s or 80s. So anyways, I'm excited. I'm excited for Retaliation. I just hope it doesn't turn into all-out Ninja Fest. I like ninjas. I
don't think it will. Sometimes you see, marketing with toys and stuff that's never featured in the movie.
Let's hope not, because there was a time in the early 90s when they had a line called G.I. Joe Ninja Force, part of the original line, and they actually renamed, like, the comic book for a while. It was like, G.I. Joe in little letters, and then starring Snake Eyes in Ninja Force in big letters back in the early 90s when, ninjas were the big thing.
I mean, how many times did you have, like, a Jungle Fury Batman action figure that marketed and put out around the time of Batman Forever, Batman and Robin?
Yeah.
And, of course, none of those ever appeared in those films.
Just when the whole marketing is Roadblock with a sword on these things, it just kind of makes me wonder, like, I hope we're not going full ninja with every character's a ninja.
Well,
Roadblock didn't need to be a ninja. He's a heavy machine gunner. He's a straight up military guy.
And The Rock fits that kind of perfectly. He fits that
perfectly. I don't know if I can see him as a ninja.
No, I can't. As many things as The Rock can pull off, I don't think wielding katanas is one of them.
I could buy him as a wrestler, but not as a ninja.
Yeah,
and I'm being funny. I know he's a wrestler.
I'll buy him as a sports entertainer.
Sure,
he's a great wrestler. One of the best WWE's ever had. We're not disputing The Rock's wrestling capabilities.
I would
just looking at these figures real quick. It's the 3 3/4, which I know is kind of the way.
They're about 4 inches. These ones are actually about 4 inches.
Okay, about 4 inches, which is the way most all the Joe stuff has been, with the exception of the original 12-inch dolls,
yeah, and then
right?
Sigma 6 was 8 inches, which is like my favorite action figure line of all time. Sigma 6.
I can't get into collecting these 3 3/4 to 4 inch action figures. It's just, even some of these are very detailed and look rather nice. But it's just, I don't think they display well. Me and you've talked about this with some of the Star Wars figures and stuff.
I personally, like I said, I have a massive collection of G.I. Joes, a massive collection of Star Wars. I have a hard time displaying 4-inch figures. It's hard to get them. It's hard to get the right shelf size. I mean, I've seen guys that do it with custom-made shelves. Gorgeous. I mean, looking at an army of somebody that has, like, 300 or 400 stormtroopers. I mean, that's a sight to behold. But I don't like the look of them on the shelves as much. I usually keep mine in tackle boxes.
Yes.
Like the little Planos, and I can pull out figures I want. And I'll do displays and kind of mess with them. But I mean, Brad, you're talking. I think that with some of the G.I. Joe stuff, at least prior to Retaliation, Hasbro was doing in the 1/18th scale what Hot Toys was doing in the 12-inch scale.
They were the mecca of that.
Yeah,
line.
I mean, they were just, if you look at it, you can't see it if you're listening, but he's got a holster here with a removable pistol, and that's a silencer that actually removes and goes on the gun and fits. We're talking it's something that's probably smaller than my thumbnail, all this together, but it's impressive. So
they are very detailed for those 4-inch figures. It's just it's one of the reasons that I think a lot of collectors, and myself included, was pretty excited for Star Wars Black, because here's a chance to collect Star Wars figures. Even if you're not going to get all of them, you'll get one you like in a bigger scale. which would be much easier to display. And you brought up a great point when you were talking about shelving and displaying these figures. They're so awkward because if you put one on your typical like bookshelf, you waste like so much space. Whereas if you could stick another shelf above it, which you can custom make this stuff, it would look a lot better. It's just a lot of collectors, they don't want to go through the trouble of doing all that. But
sure,
if you have the time to build a custom display for 3 3/4 figures, like you said, the Stormtroopers 400, you've seen some crazy stuff on the internet.
Massive armies. And I mean, people at G.I. Joe do that too. They army build. Like they'll pick a certain type of Cobra Trooper, like Vipers or something, and they'll just keep buying Vipers, like all the same, and you'll see this awesome army of even if it's only 15 or 20 Vipers at one time, that looks really cool to see 20 of the same figure, as like an army builder that's just kind of standing there together, as a unified group. It's just it's a neat appearance.
Yeah, they're definitely a sight to behold in force, especially when you have multiple characters like, you said Stormtroopers or Army Troopers, things like that. But they're kind of annoying just collecting them individually. Not collecting them, more so displaying them.
Well, I mean, once again, I pick them up because honestly, they're fun to fiddle around with. You can get some of the best poses out of these guys.
They have great articulation.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about taking these guys out in the woods and doing some pictures, and
for
stuff
for the site. Which you've done a lot of good.
Yeah,
ones
check
lately.
out my Flickr account, www.flickr.com/photos/barbecue17 BARBECUE17.
And Jerry, wrapping up this G.I. Joe Tactical Ninja Team 3-figure box set, how much will this run you?
I honestly, I saw it for about $25 at a couple places, Walmart. I think it was a little more at Toys R Us. Went to Target and it was $20.
That's a pretty good deal.
Considering these retail for $10 each, I thought this was a very good deal and was why I finally jumped on it.
So if you have a chance, go to Target to pick up the G.I. Joe Tactical Ninja Team if it's something you want. So I'm going to get into something I've been checking out. It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to read Grant Morrison's Batman Incorporated. I won't say a love-hate Grant Morrison kind of relationship with his work. It's more of like a respect but hate relationship with Grant Morrison's work. I think the man is utterly brilliant. Maybe one of the most brilliant writers to ever take on writing Batman, the X-Men, or any other, comic book characters, because he's done both Marvel and DC and dealt with both of their big guns. He had an amazing league on Justice League. But I just have to admit, going into this, that Grant Morrison, I'm not the biggest Morrison fan. I respect him. I have read a lot of Grant Morrison stuff, Jerry. Not as much as you had. I did read, most of his run on Batman, Batman and Son. I read Batman Rest in Peace, The Return of Bruce Wayne. I read some of that. I read Final Crisis, which you needed a doctorate in DC studies to really understand.
Yep.
I read, and of course now I've read Batman Incorporated. And on the Marvel side of things, I did read a lot of his work on New X-Men, which is probably my favorite Grant Morrison
I think you've read more Grant Morrison than I have, because I've read pretty much just his stuff on Batman. I've been wanting to get in some of the, You
read Final Crisis, though.
Yeah, I read Final Crisis. I mean, I've been wanting to get into Doom Patrol, his run on Doom Patrol, because I like the the old school Doom Patrol, but been wanting to read the Invisibles.
Yeah, Invisibles, which is a very popular book, and I believe pretty soon, if not already out, they're releasing a big omnibus edition.
I think there is an omnibus.
Omnibus edition of Grant Morrison.
Maybe Absolute. Who puts it out? Vertigo?
Yes, it's not going to be Absolute.
Okay.
It's just but I mean, an omnibus edition is pretty much an Absolute edition, minus the slip cover.
Exactly.
But I'm reading through this Batman Incorporated. It's important to note, Batman Incorporated was kind of put out oddly because this series started before the New 52, and then it was a continuation after the New 52, but it was renumbered.
Yes.
With a completely Batman. So there's two Batman Incorporated number ones and so on and so on.
I guess you'd call them Volume 1 and 2 would probably be
that's the best way to put it. And
this is volume 1.
This is volume 1 we are reviewing. So nothing we are reviewing is any of the Batman Incorporated stuff that
I haven't read the new stuff yet. I'll wait till it trades.
The trade's coming out, I believe it's May 14th, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to probably, right now you can pre-order it on Amazon for around $15. And I am going to probably pre-order it and read it. It's like Grant Morrison's stuff, when I'm reading it, I'm like, all right, this is pissing me off. But at the same time, like I want to find out what's going to happen next. His stuff, it relies so much on knowing the ins and outs of the DC universe. And I will admit, I'm a Marvel fanboy. I know a lot about Batman, but I don't know as much as Grant Morrison, requires the reader to know to really get the full enjoyment out of his work on Batman. He refers back to stuff from the 50s, the 60s.
Well, first of all, I think when you say the full enjoyment, I think with not enjoyment. It's not
Final the right
Crisis.
Word.
Final Crisis. I think you absolutely had to know what was going on.
You had to read 52
make
the
sense
week
of that book.
52 the week, which was the once a week.
Everything to make sense of Final Crisis.
Absolutely.
I think Batman Incorporated. I think you could pick this up and have a pretty fun time with it.
I did, with some of the,
You could enjoy it, but I think you're going to enjoy it more and more and more as you realize Grant Morrison is picking characters up, pre-Crisis DC characters that people have forgotten about, various, otherworld versions of Batman.
And Batwoman.
Yeah, Batwoman. He's having a lot of fun with it. He's taking characters from a variety of places. And I think it's cool to get somebody that respects all of this crazy stuff that's come before, who's just, he's making his own stamp on Batman, while at the same time he uses those who've come before as inspiration and, sort of brings back their work. And there's some cool scenes in this book.
The best way to describe it is he uses older works, but creates originality out of those.
Absolutely.
Which is, just an unbelievable talent. He's able to take things we've seen and then morph it into these newer versions of the character, newer stories.
Do a whole storyline about this group of the Batman of Many Nations that was born out of kind of one of those, like little one-off series in the Silver Age. So, yeah, I like what he does with it. And I think he has a neat way of characterizing the characters. I love one of the scenes in here where it shows Bruce Wayne on message boards. And Bruce Wayne is essentially trolling forums, just basically spreading misinformation about Batman to keep the public guessing. That's just a really cool idea.
I really like the Batmans that were introduced within Batman Incorporated. The Indian Batman who was a Dakota Indian, or Lakota, excuse me.
Man of Bats.
Man of Bats, and his son.
Little something, right? Because he was kind of like a play off of Robin.
Yeah, and what's interesting about these two is they don't have the funds that Bruce Wayne does at all. So they're operating out of a shack on a kind of rundown Indian reservation. Busting people who are dealing drugs and things of that nature. And all of a sudden you get to see Bruce Wayne Batman show up and interact with these people as they carry out Batman's fight for justice. And it kind of, everybody knows how big of a fan I am of the Nolan movies, and it really is the true definition of Batman is more than a man. He's a symbol. Even more so than maybe those movies are when you see it in the comics.
This book takes it there and truly has, Bruce realizing that if there were more Batmans, there would be more, more justice. He really starts turning Batman into I don't want to say
he can control the anarchy in the world a lot better than just him and Dick and Damian having all the pressures on their shoulders.
He really expands the Bat family here. That whole Bat family concept that had kind of been rebuilt in the mid-2000s, mid 2000s. He really expands it here.
What I really like too is because this is right when Bruce is coming back to be Batman. So Dick is still Batman. So we have two Batmans in here at multiple points during the book. And I like how they rendered that in the art where Bruce had the darker, blacker suit.
Yeah.
And then Dick had the lighter blue kind of classic 80s, maybe Batman 70s
and I mean, you're
style.
really seeing, the difference in those
Denny
two.
O'Neil kind of
and
Batman
you've got
look.
multiple Batgirls.
Yes.
And they're showing how different they are.
You've read Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin run when Dick was Batman. He had the traditional black suit and those. Is that correct?
It was usually a pre-traditional black, sometimes blue. I mean, sometimes it's rendered more as a bluish color, but it was more traditional.
I like the way they did that. I love this take on Batgirl. I thought it was fascinating. Jerry, I'll be interested to hear what you thought about that, because what they essentially do, this is pre-New 52, so Batgirl is still Oracle. She's still confined to the restraint of her wheelchair, but she uploads herself as a digital Batgirl pretty much into the web to kind of fight crime on the interwebs.
In Internet 3.0.
Yes.
It's kind of what they launched it. I mean, it was a great way. It was a great way to return Barbara Gordon to being Batman. Or, sorry,
Batgirl.
Barbara Gordon to being Batgirl, while still
while at the time staying with the continuity.
Sure, the continuity
joke.
was she was still crippled. She was still paralyzed. So it used that, but it also used that she had more computer skills than anybody. I mean, Oracle was, probably one of the world's premier computer experts. And so it took all that together and really blended it. I would have loved to see this continue without having any changes for the constraints that were put on it by the New 52.
And you get to see Batman, like you said, it expands the Bat family, but everybody in here that you love, with the exception of villains, everybody else that you love in the Batman mythos is still there. You get to see him interact with Catwoman, with Red Robin, with Dick, with Damian, with Catwoman. I said Catwoman already. Batwoman. Multiple Batgirls, Barbara Gordon and the blonde Batgirl.
Stephanie Brown.
Of course Jerry would know that. The Batgirl expert. But Lucius Fox is in there.
My Batgirl expertise is limited to the Barbara Gordon field. I know a little bit about the other ones, but limited to the Barbara Gordon field.
And a lot of people may not like this about Grant Morrison. I'm one who likes an original villain every now and then, but for the most part, I know it's played out, but I want to see the Batman taking on somebody in his rogues gallery, whether it be a Two-Face, a Joker, a Clayface, Scarecrow, the Bane, the bigger baddies. I know you can't do that over and over and over because it's been done to death, but I like to see, like Scott Snyder took the Joker and gave us a Joker story that wasn't quite epic, but it was still a different type of Joker story, unlike anything we had seen up until that point.
Yeah.
Whereas Grant Morrison goes a different route. He creates new villains, and he also harkens back to older villains, such as Dr. Death. In here, I believe he created Dr. Death for this book. And is it Deadless? I'm pretty sure
it's been a
it's
while
not
since
Dr.
I've read
Deadless.
it. I can't remember offhand.
It's Deadless. So, and there's just a whole big arc with him, and Batman gets in this epic showdown, and there is with him toward the end of the book, and there is maybe, I'm not going to spoil it, but probably one of my favorite Damian Wayne scenes of all time comes out of this book. And of course, Grant Morrison created Damian Wayne, and he is now unfortunately taking him away from us. But it is kind of really neat to see Grant Morrison handle the character he created and watch him grow that character throughout Batman Incorporated. It makes me really want to read the Batman and Robin series Morrison wrote.
Read them, yeah. They're pretty good. They're pretty entertaining. I don't think you have to have nearly the Batman knowledge.
Yeah, I heard those can stand alone.
Yeah,
almost.
They're pretty easy reads. I mean, in terms of, as comics go.
And I'm a big fan of Peter Tomsey and Patrick Gleason's current run on Batman and Robin, but I've heard, Morrison's run even blows that out of the water. So that is something I will definitely check out. There were several artists in this book. I believe Chris Berman, J.H. Williams, Fraser Irving did an alternate cover.
J.H. Williams.
J.H. Williams.
Yeah, the third, is that?
Yeah, that's right.
He...
Yannick Paquette is in
J.H.
here.
Williams is like I think is the most amazing artist, and the work on Batwoman is, I'll go on record and say it, Batwoman is the most consistently good and beautiful title in the New 52 that DC is putting out. It is amazing. I mean,
And that's J.H. Williams, the third drawing.
Writes and
Wow.
and does it. I'd have to look at it.
The fact that he's able to create, to keep his quality of art up while also writing
beautiful.
the book is very impressive.
I mean, it rivals anything that I've ever seen from Vertigo, any independent title in terms of the artistry in that book. It is amazing. The only book that comes close to looking as consistently gorgeous every month is Fables. I mean, just with the
Who draws Fables?
Mark Buckingham.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes there's guest artists, but not even just the art, it's the layout, the way that the text is used. They have Todd Klein, who, I mean, is probably the greatest lettering out there, and does some really creative stuff. I know he did a lot of lettering for Sandman. I mean, he letters everything. It seems like, but it's a beautiful book. I mean, even if you have no interest in Batwoman, you have to flip through it once or twice just to be stunned by its presentation.
And who can forget Batwing? He was introduced.
Batwing is such a cool character, the Batman of Africa.
Yeah, he's pretty much a mix of Iron Man, Black Panther, and Batman. It was a pretty cool concept. Grant Morrison actually took the idea from an older comic where Bruce had took some kids that were in an orphanage on a camping trip, and they were kind of going around. And this was back in the time when a single bachelor could take 3 boys on a camping trip and not have to worry about unmentionable
Nobody would
things.
say a word. So.
But they were kind of each given their version of Batman, kind of like that first short in Batman Gotham Knights.
Yes, okay.
And this is that's what they were doing in this 1970s Batman comic, and one of the kids gave this kind of idea that became Batwing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a really cool concept that Morrison threw
I thought the
in there.
New 52 was a good Batwing. That's a good trade.
Really? I haven't read that.
Yeah, it's quite good. I'll pick up the second one. I enjoyed it.
Another thing is, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I mentioned, that major villains don't always play the biggest role in Morrison's arc, but we find out that Leviathan, more about them and kind of their whole behind this whole gauntlet and hell that Bruce Wayne has been being put through. And let's just say that it isn't exactly Dr. Deadless, who Bruce Wayne has to worry about. I won't spoil that like Jerry did for me, but it's a pretty good cliffhanger on that last page. And it's a good thing that DC allowed Grant Morrison to do a volume 2 within the New 52, because that was a pretty big cliffhanger, Jerry.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, I think that's one of the great things, though. You mentioned earlier about liking the classic villains, and that's a really good thing. I mean, the villains are classic because
people love them.
Yeah, people love them. They're good. I mean, they have a good hook to them. But at the same time, if you use them all the time, they kind of become less special.
Yes.
I mean, if every week Batman's fighting the Joker and Two-Face, you start.
It doesn't mean as much.
It doesn't mean as much. You sort of start thinking, okay, so is Joker just getting out of jail every week, or is Batman ineffective? But when you have
some people might argue that within Gotham. I would never.
I could see that, but when you have these other new villains, and you're also when you bring a new villain in, you're potentially creating another member of the Rogues Gallery at the time. I mean, reading Hush.
Yes, I was about to say that.
Did we, I mean, who would have thought that Hush would have become like a pretty prominent Batman villain? I mean, I think he's definitely there in Rogues.
Bane in 1993 and Nightfall. Well, he's introduced before Nightfall in that one shot.
Shadow of Bane, Vengeance of Bane.
Vengeance of Bane, yes. Nobody knew at the time.
Azrael, Sword of Azrael. And suddenly, here's Azrael as friend, foe.
They were all introduced in that Vengeance of Bane kind of Nightfall epic, but nobody thought at the time Bane's going to headline this, be the villain in this $1 billion Batman movie one day. But here we are in 2012, now 2013. He did. Tom Hardy did a great job.
You try something new, and sometimes you're creating something that's going to endure, that's going to last. Sometimes you're creating a villain of the week.
So who knows? Maybe one day, 20 years from now, we'll see Batman battle Dr. Deadless and battle Leviathan in a major blockbuster.
Who knows?
So, Jerry Reed, what have you been checking out this week?
The last thing I'll mention is I actually, got my wife to sit down. We watched Prometheus this week, and so
this is going to become a giant size edition.
Yeah, I won't go on too long, but I will say the thing that was interesting was I enjoyed Prometheus in the theater. I think on our scale, I would have probably went with good.
I said great at the time,
but watching it again, I think I would actually go with like great and a half.
Yes.
It's a movie that I think that watching it the second time through and having heard everybody's nitpicks about it and the things people didn't like, when I watched them the second time through, those things felt like such minor parts of the movie and the whole experience. So I'm really...
Like, why is Michael Fassbender playing with CGI for 10 minutes?
I'm sitting there, I'm remembering someone talking about, like, when I was playing
Andrew Stokes
CGI for, 10-15 minutes, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, that was like a 3-minute scene or something, and it made sense in the context. It felt
more than 3 minutes for other people, Jerry, not me.
But I was saying, a lot of the nitpicks that I watched, I didn't think they were as big of a deal, and I enjoyed the movie far more this time than I did the first time.
Even the people who hate Prometheus will admit it is one of the most beautifully shot, best renderings of any type of CG art, and great use of 3D that you will see in a film up until this point.
I think it was the best looking movie of last year, other than Skyfall.
Other than Skyfall.
I like Skyfall cinematography more, but I think Prometheus would have came in second.
Well, Skyfall is some of the best cinematography that I had ever seen, and the fact that it didn't win for that at the Academy Awards shocked me. I mean, Life of Pi was great. I saw that in 3D. It was amazing. But it was no Skyfall. The silhouettes, just the lighting in that movie was perfect for every shot. For Prometheus, I thought it was a really good science fiction film that left me kind of pondering thoughts about life and where does life come from.
Just the conversations that my wife and I were having the other night after watching it, I was like, man, this is the reason that you make, not just what we think of as maybe science fiction all the time, like aliens and fighter ships. No, when you watch really good hardcore science fiction, it leaves you asking those questions. Watch 2001, watch Blade Runner, watch a film like that, and suddenly you have way more questions than you do answers, and I think that's the point of science fiction. So this was just to say, I watched Prometheus again, which was actually spurred by... NECA has released the Series 2 of Prometheus action figures, which has David in it, and has, they call it the Deacon. It's the little creature that appears near the end of the movie.
Otherwise known as the alien rapist.
No.
Okay, that's a different figure.
This is the
engineer?
No, the thing that comes out of the engineer. Spoiler. The thing that comes out of the engineer at the end of the movie.
Yes, and the thing that takes the ooze at the beginning of film to create life.
That's the engineer. This is the thing that pops out of the engineer's chest at the end of the movie.
Oh, okay,
that looks like an alien, kind of. It's called the Deacon, is what people have been calling it. And so NECA's released the Deacon action figure. Mine should be here tomorrow. That's the Trilobite.
Okay, the Trilobite. There's so many of these NECA Prometheus figures.
Yeah, but it's...
The Trilobite is like the giant face sucker.
Yeah, just that comes out of
Naomi Rapace.
Yeah, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw's character.
It's interesting that you watch Prometheus this week and bring it up on this podcast, because I was reading an article earlier today. We all know Damon Lindelof infamously wrote this film. He wrote Lost. He's good at setting stuff up and getting the audience invested, but is known for being terrible at paying it off. Well, originally, the script for Prometheus was written to be a standalone film.
Mm-hmm.
Then Damon Lindelof came in, rewrote the entire script as part one of a trilogy, which obviously, if you've seen the film, it ends on a pretty big cliffhanger leading into a second film.
I think you called it a cliffhanger.
That sets up a sequel pretty well, you would think.
Yeah, I'm not going to call it a cliffhanger. I'm going to call it sets up a sequel.
A nice setup.
Yeah, nice setup for a future film.
So what happened is Lindelof was supposed to stay on as screenwriter for 2 and 3, and then he backed out to go do some other films. I know Tomorrowland was one of them, and he was working on another one that he was writing, but he backed out. And the reports are saying Ridley Scott and company are like, what the hell do we do now? They have no idea where to go with this sequel, Jerry.
I would hope that Ridley Scott could work something out. I mean, sometimes
directors aren't always the best writers.
That's true.
Ridley Scott might be. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping something works out. Someone of his caliber can find someone who can take the foundation that's been laid in Prometheus and move forward with it. But you know what? Even if there's not, I would like another one. But even if there's not another one, I think it's an effective movie. And I think
it's an effective movie to make you ponder things. But eventually you have to pay these things off.
Let's give Prometheus a couple years and see what people think about it. Because there are so many movies that people say are classic that people, just despised when they came out. A lot of people did. That weren't popular movies.
Was Blade Runner really popular?
Not really. I mean, I think Blade Runner's kind of gained popularity over time.
Yes, so now it's like considered a cinematic classic.
Yeah. So let's just, I was reading an article, I think it was about, movies that got nominated for Best Picture that, years later, nobody remembers those movies. People remember, like, these other movies. Like, Citizen Kane was kind of one of those that I think something else got nominated for Best Picture. Citizen Kane was kind of shut out. And which is the movie we remember these days? Citizen Kane.
Yes, so sometimes that does happen at the Academy Awards.
I'm not comparing Prometheus to Citizen Kane, but I'm saying I think time's going to be a judge of that movie.
And one thing is for sure, it should hold up fairly well in at least the looks department for the next couple years. Because it was pretty, some of the visuals in that movie were groundbreaking.
It didn't try too hard with a lot of stuff. Like, it didn't try to do something that I think's going to look dated in a couple years. I think everything's going to look like what it is.
Unlike Olympus Has Fallen, which looks dated now. But that's just we'll get into that in a little bit.
Talking about Prometheus, I think leads into a good discussion about another science fiction franchise that may have more coming, but I don't know if we're at that point yet.
We will tease that. I have one other thing I've been checking out.
All right.
Let's move on from Prometheus, because honestly, we could do 2.5 hours, if not more, going back and forth on Prometheus. So I've been checking out one other thing this week, Jerry, and this is something near and dear to Jerry's heart: the Evil Dead trilogy.
Oh,
I started watching I believe I began watching the first one around March, and I've got to the beginning of March, and I got to them as I could over the past couple of weeks. Watched Evil Dead, watched Evil Dead 2. And watched Army of Darkness, and they're all the Sam Raimi horror trilogy starring Bruce Campbell. And I remember when I was like, I'd seen all the major horror franchises, all the Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Evil Dead is ranked up there with those. And I've kind of I need to watch this. So I was talking to another friend about it. He's like, Brad, I don't know if you're going to like this. It's this campy horror. It's really not all that scary, kind of creepy. And so I put it off because I was like, I don't know if this is something for me, Jerry. And I finally get around to watching the movies. And I just say that they're fun. They're really fun. If you're looking for some kind of serious horror film out of it, you may be better served to check out the remake coming out.
Or the first one. I think the first one's a pretty creepy.
It is creepy. I wouldn't necessarily say it's
I think the first
scary.
one has some very scary moments in it.
It is. It's definitely more of classic horror than the other
very
two.
much, and very gory too.
Oh yes,
in just like a gloriously gory kind of way. Just, I mean, when they stick the pencil in the person's ankle and just twist it around. Oh my gosh!
I mean, my favorite one is Evil Dead 2 out of the three,
and that's a lot of people's favorite.
Which Jerry's is Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness is like my 5th favorite film of all time. I love Army of Darkness.
Yes, and so Jerry had me really pumped for Army of Darkness. I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so epic. And I'm sitting there watching Army of Darkness. I'm like, just like Evil Dead 2 better, because Army of Darkness is more of just a campy, almost medieval movie than it is a straight horror movie. It's
kind of like the old, like Clash of the Titans or the old Ray Harryhausen films. I mean, it tries lots of different things, and it's slapstick at times, but it's got some of the best lines in any movie ever.
It does, and I was sitting there watching it, and I had it at about a good and a half until I saw the last scene with Ash at the S Mart.
Oh my gosh!
And
yes.
that is an epic scene, and that bumped it up to great for me. Of course, I know Jerry has it confirmed epic.
If they had an epic and a half, Army of Darkness would get it for me.
Beyond epic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was watching all these films. I'm like, they may not be straight up horror films, but they're their own kind of thing. And if you look at the budget Sam Raimi had when making these movies, I believe he made the first one for around $10,000.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was hardly anything. Yeah.
He was right out of college. I shot the film in Michigan and North Carolina.
Yes.
In the mountains of North Carolina, so close to where we're at in the Hollywood foothills. So that's pretty cool. I'm watching these movies. I mean, they do belong up there in the upper echelon of horror films, and Jerry is actually pulling out a book. Jerry, tell the people the book that you got here.
The book is titled If Chins Could Kill, The Confessions of a B-Movie Actor by Bruce Campbell. It's kind of his autobiography, but it also talks a lot about the filming of the movie.
Yeah, so you can check that out, Confessions of a B-Movie Actor, Bruce Campbell's autobiography, probably about $15 on Amazon. But Jerry is a huge Bruce Campbell fan. When he cameoed in Oz, Jerry was freaking out.
Yep.
I mean, I think Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi will always be linked together because
I mean, they're truly. It's funny to like read it and to them talk about like making movies as kids and all this stuff that they did.
They're close friends.
They've been close friends for years, and even Ted Raimi, Bruce's brother, he was in the suit as Henrietta.
You mean Sam's brother? Sam Raimi's brother.
Yeah, Ted Raimi, Sam's brother.
Yes.
Who did I say?
You said it was Bruce Campbell's brother.
No, sorry, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother. Like he's been in a lot of stuff with Bruce Campbell. Like Bruce Campbell's been in it, and Ted Raimi's been in it when Sam's not, and vice versa. So yeah, it's
the ultimate camp horror trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the first one, like I think the first one is truly a pretty effective horror film. The second one takes horror and goes in a completely different direction by throwing in comedy and having the main characters sort of fight back. The third one goes off in a completely different direction with the main character just this uber monster killer who knows what he's doing, who's like this, this prophesied warrior, but great series. And one of the things, Brad, did you notice in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, that they have an Evil Dead poster in...
That's a Heather Langenkamp's room?
Yeah, I think it's in her bedroom. Somebody's bedroom has a Evil Dead poster.
Really?
Yeah.
I just bought that set on Blu-ray, the Nightmare on Elm Street set, so I'll be on the lookout when I watch that.
Check it out.
It really... and I like the approach, looking forward to the remake coming up in a couple of weeks here. I like the approach that they're going, hey, we're going for a hard R horror film. We're not trying to compete with Bruce Campbell, compete with Sam Raimi's original, although those two are producers.
Yeah,
on the
they're
film.
Involved with it.
And I think it's so interesting where this franchise is going, because you're going to have the hard R horror versions. This is kind of a remake. They're going to do an Evil Dead 2 but it's not going to be a remake of Evil Dead 2. They're going to go in a completely different direction, which I find interesting. And running parallel to all this, Sam Raimi has already said he's writing the script for Army of Darkness 2 this summer.
Yeah, Army of Darkness 2, Evil Dead 4. I mean,
exactly. It will
crazy,
be the progression of the original series.
Yeah, with Bruce Campbell back, apparently.
Yes, he's still in great shape. He still looks like Ash completely.
And you know what? Ash is one of those characters that I think it would just make it funnier
if he was like
see
heavy
like
set
this late, I don't know how old Bruce Campbell is exactly, but this Ash who's in his 50s, it would just make it even funnier to see that.
It's just, you're going to have these hard R versions of the Evil Dead running parallel to the progression of the original series. And I mean, the studios and Sam Raimi are like, we want to do it. Do it. It's not all this, we're making the remake, so we don't need to be marketing the continuation of the original. And that trilogy is beloved. So it's taken a lot of guts to go back and continue it. I don't know if it's maybe the best decision. Sometimes when you get to a fourth one, that's where things kind of mess up. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you can mess this up.
They're all so different, and I think it comes down to Sam Raimi is probably in a better place than he's ever been in terms of his directing skills. And Bruce Campbell is still always Bruce Campbell. He just gets more and more awesome with age.
The actor.
Exactly. In the most respectful way possible.
Yes. I mean, he is everything a B actor should be.
B-movie actor should be.
He is. And that's, you love him for it.
Yeah.
And no matter what he's in, he's somebody who can, even if it's a movie you hate, like Spider-Man 3, a lot of people didn't like it, but I mean, you gotta love his cameo in that where he's the waiter when Peter goes to propose to Mary Jane.
All right, I'll tell you 3 things with Bruce Campbell in them that are worth checking out if you've never seen them.
All right.
The first is The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. It was a series that ran on Fox in kind of the probably the mid-90s. It is a Western. It has sometimes like a little bit of sci-fi elements to it, but he plays this son of I think he's a U.S. Marshal named Briscoe. His name's Briscoe County Jr., and he goes off looking for the people who killed his father. It's a great show. It's funny. It's entertaining. Bruce Campbell's the star of it. It's an awesome show. The second is, it's a movie that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's awesome. It's directed by Don Coscarelli, who directed Phantasm. He just directed the movie John Dies at the End. It is called Bubba Hotep. It is a film. Bruce Campbell plays a guy who may or may not be Elvis Presley, who's living in a nursing home in Texas as a senior citizen and has to fight this ancient Egyptian mummy that is stealing the souls of the other residents of the nursing home. Great movie. It sounds like the most ridiculous movie ever made, but it has so much heart to it. Bruce Campbell plays a fantastic, may or may not be Elvis character. A third thing to check out with Bruce Campbell is the movie My Name is Bruce. It's really cheesy. It's a lot of fun. Bruce Campbell plays himself as a washed-up B-movie actor who this kid asks him to come to his hometown to help fight these monsters. But Bruce Campbell believes that he's going to be starring in a movie, but it turns out there's actually an ancient Chinese demon who's trying to destroy this small town.
The perfect role for
very
Bruce Campbell.
Self-aware, but it's a very funny movie.
So, I mean, that has been the life and times of Bruce Campbell, which we could talk at nauseum about.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Jerry absolutely loves him. I like him a lot. I'm pumped for Army of Darkness 2. I pray that movie gets made. So,
if I had my choice, let's just say if I had my choice between Star Wars Episode 7
this is crazy.
or Army of Darkness 2, Army of Darkness 2 without a moment's hesitation.
Well, Jerry, that says it all. So
says it all.
Jerry's love for the Evil Dead franchise. I'm so glad I've seen it. It is definitely the mecca of camp horror. It always will be. So, Jerry, let's move on from checking stuff out into epic news. And I have a few items I want to get into this week. Let's get into some HBO news. All right. HBO has famously kept their online service, HBO Go, from people who want to just subscribe to it in general. As long as you pay, if you have DirecTV, Comcast, Time Warner Cable, a television service provider, and you get HBO, which will run you about an additional $15 a month, you have access to HBO Go. But people have long said who don't have those services, like Jerry, he just has Netflix because he doesn't want to pay an $80 a month cable bill.
Nope.
But you can't get HBO content on Netflix.
For $80 a month, I could buy a quarter of a hot toy.
Yeah, a quarter of a hot toy. That's about right. Those things are pretty darn expensive. But, so HBO Go, people have been begging for it who aren't subscribers to major television providers and cable providers. So, HBO is thinking about, and they've actually done this, I believe it was in the Netherlands, they've just offered a service like HBO Go for people to straight up buy without being a cable subscriber or a satellite subscriber. They're finally talking about opening up HBO Go to anybody who wants it. So you don't have to have HBO on your cable provider. You can just get it. It will probably cost between $15 to $20 a month. And so many people I've talked with them, I'm like, talking about Game of Thrones.
I was going to say, Game of Thrones seems like why most people would want that.
Yes, and they have some other original content, like True Blood. People want to watch that. That's a pretty popular show. And they've had great shows throughout the year. Sopranos, The Wire. I'm sure they'll have more down the pipeline. And Curb Your Enthusiasm, stuff like that. But, Jerry, what do you think about this? If they provided, let's just say it was $15 a month, you could subscribe to HBO Go, get unlimited HBO content as far as access to all their series, a back catalog, almost a HBO Netflix, if you will, and a few movies sprinkled in. Would this be something you'd be interested in picking up?
I would be way more likely to buy something like that, to do something like that, versus going through a cable company and asking for something, and getting a package that had, HBO or something. Yeah, because when I was younger, I definitely, okay, you can sort of, plan your schedule. But these days, I can't plan my schedule around TV watching time.
That's what DVRs are for, Jared.
I don't even own one of those. I don't even have TV though. We don't have any cable.
He has TV.
I have an antenna. I have a TV, but I have an antenna, and I don't know that it works. We get bounce. That's the only maybe that and Channel 3, which is like TV Guide.
It's Channel 3 TV Guide.
It might be.
Or CBS.
It might be CBS. I don't know. See, I don't watch it that much.
Jerry watches everything either online or through Netflix.
Oh, well, either on Netflix or just because I've borrowed it from somebody or bought it.
Yes, and I know the way Jerry watches The Walking Dead is they watch it with someone who buys it online
through Amazon Prime through Amazon, for
about $3 an episode.
Yeah,
and you're like, $3 an episode, that's kind of pricey, but I guess it's better than paying. I'm a DirecTV customer, and I pay $88 a month for my service. That's with DVR and multiple DVRs in 2 rooms and with HD and all the bells and whistles. But I do not have HBO because it's an additional $15 a month.
There's 2 shows. There's 2 shows I'll watch. One of them starts this week again. Doctor Who. Watch BBC. Doctor Who. BBC America. For Doctor Who, we go to a friend that has BBC America and we watch it. For Walking Dead, we watch on Amazon Prime. If it were just us, if we didn't have anybody that watched it, I would much rather pay $6 to $8 a month, or $6 to $8 an episode, and watch, just The Walking Dead and Doctor Who.
Watch what you want.
Yeah, the 2 things I want to watch versus paying $80-some. I would personally rather do that.
And see, the main reason I'm kind of disagree with Jerry on this, and Jerry, I'm the type of person I'll watch, especially during football season, I'll watch a lot of sports. I got the Sunday ticket package. I usually, for the most part, watch a lot of cable news shows and stuff. And that's the reason I go through a service provider, DirecTV. But if you're not really wanting those things, then I can see how TV a la carte or on demand. I guess it's not really on demand, but you get, it's pretty much the concept of on demand is kind of the cheaper route to go. But HBO is so weird. I have a classmate, I'm in grad school, I have a classmate when the the HBO show Game Change come out, which was the Sarah Palin movie. And Ed Harris was in. I believe Ed Harris played John McCain in it, and he big political buff. He was a Time Warner subscriber, but he wanted to watch Game Change. So what he did was, and you can do this, folks. He ordered HBO for one night and canceled it. You can do that. I don't know how. I believe it may charge you for that month. So I guess he essentially paid $15 to watch it and DVR it, which I guess is about what it would cost on Blu-ray.
Sure.
So if there's
some theaters.
Some theaters in bigger cities.
Theaters, then, okay.
Yeah, but if you're gonna, and a lot of people will subscribe to it just during Game of Thrones or just during when Entourage was on. That was really popular.
Yeah.
So HBO, we're begging you. Hear the voice of the people who want to consume your product. Put it out there, make it readily available to a kind of more 21st century consumer, and let people enjoy like Game of Thrones and all these great original shows and your great back catalog. So I hope they go through with it, Jerry. Of course, this is all speculation now. All right, another epic news item. Jerry, I don't know if you've heard the news, but they're doing a 1966 Adam West Batman comic.
I have. It's going to be digital, correct?
Digital. It is digital.
Like Comixology or one of those sites?
It's going to be 3 issues, but they're only going to be 10-page issues, so it will put
That's usually what the online ones are.
Yes,
and then they usually
put it together and release it in print. It's going to be written by Jeff Parker and drawn by Jonathan Chase, and they've kind of shown some concept art from it. It's going to have Eartha Kitt Catwoman and Julie Newmar Catwoman, and there won't be any explanation. They'll just switch.
Why they're having... Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't know why they're doing that.
I guess they want to give every fan of that show kind of... I'm a Julie Newmar.
Yeah,
myself.
Julie Newmar is probably my favorite.
But they want to give the Eartha Kitt fans what they want as well. And interesting.
What about Lee Merriweather fans? Are they left out?
They didn't. In all the articles I've read, Lee Merriweather wasn't referenced, but they could be saving her.
Because those are the movie rights.
Oh, okay.
Those are the movie rights.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then, which are owned by 20th Century Fox. So, yes.
I think that's the case.
Here's what's cool about this. They're going to, set it up as, your Adam West Batman, Burt Ward Robin, Cesar Romero Joker, all the greats in there, Frank Gorshin Riddler, Burgess Meredith Penguin, all those guys. But, Jerry, they're bringing Killer Croc in to interact with the Adam West Batman. What do you think about that?
I wonder how they're going to make him look. Have they shown him yet?
I have no idea.
Because it'll be interesting if they...
They have not shown him.
It'll be interesting if they try to, it'd be really... It would be very Adam West-ish if Killer Croc looked exactly like he would look in a modern New 52 book. It would just be really funny, but with the same interactions.
So out of place.
Yeah, I think that would be funny. But it'll be interesting to see if they try to... in a sense, reverse engineer Killer Croc to make him look like he would have looked, retrofit him, if you will, to what he would have looked like in the 66 series. What'd be interesting is if they actually tried to base him off an actor. Because,
Yes, it would, because everybody's actor-driven on that show.
There was a whole thing about they were thinking if it would continue to a 4th season, Clint Eastwood could have been Two-Face.
Really? Oh,
it would be cool to see that. Like a Two-Face.
Would Clint Eastwood have done that show? I know it was huge.
Yes, he wanted to. Remember, thinking at that time, all Clint Eastwood was doing...
That's how it was before Dirty Harry all that.
Gunsmoke and stuff, I think. I'm not...
Really, I don't know if he was Gunsmoke, but maybe one of those westerns.
It was one of the Western shows that was like, that was it. That's what he was doing, so that would have been a really huge leap. Kind of up the ladder for him.
Oh, I can't. A Clint Eastwood Two-Face, that would really make my day, if you know what I mean. It really would. But that would be so
that
epic.
Was awful. That was actually pretty good. That was pretty good. Clever. It was pretty clever, Brad. All right.
I have a question for you about, as a collector, somebody who collects a lot of figures, a lot of memorabilia. I do too, but you collect a lot more than I do.
Sure.
Jerry, are they kind of, I hate to use this term, but are they kind of whoring out this property? We have a digital comic, we have action figures, we have the little, what is the pop heads?
The Popco.
We have the
vinyls.
Popco. We have those. We have, and there's some other stuff too. I just can't recall off the top of my head.
Other than the Batmobile, from the 1966 because the rights were held up for so long.
Yes.
People have
begged
for this property for years and years and years. I mean, I'm 29, so I did not grow up with this series. I grew up seeing it on Sci-Fi Channel or on, in syndication.
Yeah, which is how a lot of people were exposed to this.
But when you talk to people who actually grew up with this, like collectors online who are older and who grew up with this as their dominant Batman when they were kids or, young adults, I mean, this has been like a dream for them to have action figures or something based off this series. So, no, I don't think they're, whoring out this license any more than they would for a major movie release. But, I mean, there's T-shirts coming out. There's all kinds of stuff.
Hot Toys has a license. They're doing the quarter-inch.
NECA is doing the quarter-inch scale. Mattel is putting out... Have you seen Mattel's Comic-Con exclusive Batman?
Yes, the Bat.
He's in a box that looks like a very 60s-ish party scene.
Retro box.
Yeah, but it has Batman in his hands. He's doing the Batusi. The figure's hands are posed to be doing the Batusi dance, where he puts his fingers in front of his eyes.
Which is a lot of people's GIF signature on message boards.
And it actually plays music and has quotes from Adam West as well. I think people are just giving fans what they have begged for years and years and years.
And there are people out there who are going to get every single thing from this property.
I will say that if I plan on picking up everything that Mattel puts out in the line, in that 6-inch scale. I will pick up everything they put out, and I will pick up anything that they put out that is based on the Yvonne Craig Batgirl. I don't care what it...
Would you pick up an Yvonne Craig Batgirl hot toy?
I would pre-order it the moment it came out.
For $275.
Oh, man, sure. I would give them a check, and I would say, here's a check. It has my name on it. Write a price that you think is fair, and I will honor it. That's what I would say.
It's just, with me, I'm going to get the Mattel figures, just because,
they're awesome.
They're kind of one of the
Surfing contest Batman with his shorts.
I have them all pre-ordered at Big Bad Toy Store.
Yeah.
Jerry does as well. But it's something that collectors have always wanted. But my thing is, I collect Hot Toys Batman stuff. I have all the Dark Knight stuff pretty much, or it's on its way. And I have all the Burton stuff that's out so far. And I'll get Penguin and Catwoman when they come out. I love this series because even before I experienced the animated series, this was my introduction to Batman. I would watch the reruns with my grandpa, and this was my grandpa's Batman.
Yeah.
Who's a lifelong Batman fan, who all the way from West to Burton to the Nolan films.
Really?
Yes, we saw Dark Knight together, and he wasn't able to make it to Dark Knight Rises because of health issues, but we watched that at my house on the big TV and stuff.
That's such a cool story.
On Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, Christmas Day afternoon, me and my grandfather got together at my house while everybody else was over at my grandmother's cooking and stuff. Sorry to get off on this personal tangent.
This is good. This is good.
It's a cool little story, and we sit there and we watch and my grandpa's 80 years old.
Wow.
And we watched the entire 2 hours and 45 minutes. He didn't fall asleep one time. And he really, it's just so cool to see somebody that age be able to enjoy so many iterations of Batman and live through all that. And we're talking about, as a kid, he collected the original Detective comics and things like that. Of course, he doesn't have them. When my grandparents cleaned out their attic, they all got thrown away. He had them in a box. I'm talking some of the very first Detective comics with Batman that would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now. We've talked about it many times. Yeah. He regrets it. But so I have that kind of connection with my grandpa, and I think everybody has a reason this series meant something to them, just like most properties in general. But it's kind of weird as a 26-year-old younger guy, and as a 29-year-old that we have this attachment to it. But
younger guy?
Yeah, younger guy. He is very young.
Sure.
But it kind of has this attachment to a show that aired in 1966. It started in 66. Yeah. So, and I'm pumped for it. So will I get the Hot Toys stuff. The Batmobile looks gorgeous. I don't get Hot Toys vehicles, but I mean, I just think a Hot Toys Adam West Batman and Burt Ward Robin together.
I just want you to think about this, okay?
I will say this real quick. Can I say this?
Right, say this.
On a personal Hot Toys buying side note, if they do, I'm like Jerry is with Batgirl. If they do, not to that extreme, but if they do a Frank Gorshin Riddler, which is my favorite interpretation of the character all the time, I will be picking up that Hot Toy. I don't care if it is just green spandex.
Mine is a redhead who is a ballerina. Yours is a man in green spandex who tells riddles.
Yes, with a slick back.
Everybody's got their type.
Yes.
Here's the thing I was gonna say though. Here's the thing I was gonna say. Imagine on your shelf, you've got the Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan Batman. You've got the Michael Keaton Batman. You've got the Adam West Batman. You're kind of becoming like Grant Morrison here. You're just throwing all this Batman stuff together, and you're able to reinterpret it in your own way.
The only thing
I want you to think about that.
If Hot Toys then just gets the license to the animated series, I mean, the circle would be complete.
What if they did this was a Batman who appeared in like one issue in 1976 where he was
Grant Morrison Hot Toys line. It's like every Batman character you didn't know existed, but he made major characters.
El Gaucho.
Yeah, the Hot Toy.
With motorcycle.
Yeah, but Hot Toys doesn't usually do straight. It has to be based on a film or video game, whereas, Sideshow
But they're doing Arkham Asylum, right?
Yeah, I said it's film and video game.
Okay.
They don't do straight comic-based, whereas Sideshow Collectibles handles that.
They kind of do stuff like that,
which you've seen with the Batman, the Superman premium formats coming out.
The Poison Ivy, the Joker.
Poison Ivy, the Joker.
Okay.
I think we're all looking forward to this 66 Batman stuff. So if you're a Batman fan, the Adam West Batman holds some kind of special place in your heart, whether it's loathing him or loving him. So let's move on to the biggest epic...
All right, old man.
All right, moving on to the biggest epic news item of the week. The Independence Day.
Is this really the biggest news?
This was the biggest news of the week.
Okay.
And kind of, this was a very disaster movie week because you had Olympus Has Fallen come out, which we're going to review in a few minutes. You had the trailer for White House Down come out, another Roland Emmerich film. At the same time, Roland Emmerich pretty much makes it official. Independence Day 2 and 3, which will be entitled Independence Day Forever Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's taking place 20 years after the first one, and it's going to be, I guess it is almost about 20 years after the first one.
Yeah, it really is.
I guess it's just taking place in the present. It just seems so weird that Independence Day was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But Jerry, the aliens pretty much have come back and they're pissed off. That's kind of going to be the plot for Independence Day Forever Part 1 and Part 2. And, of course, the question is, will Will Smith come back? He made cameo, but apparently it's going to follow the story of his stepson, not in real life, in the film.
Yeah.
Kind of, he's older, and I believe he's in the military now. So, Jerry, first of all, give me your thoughts on Independence Day, the original, and then what you think about these sequels.
Independence Day came out
95, I believe.
It came out 96 because it came out the same year as the Olympics.
Okay.
And I was going into 7th grade, and I thought Independence Day was like the height of sci-fi. I read the novelization. I remember, they had little tie-in
Welcome
comics.
to Earth.
Yeah, Welcome to Earth. They're never going to let you fly the space shuttle if they know you're married to a stripper. Anyways, it's a pretty good movie. I enjoy Independence Day. It's kind of one of those movies that whenever I watch it, like if it's on TV or, at somebody else's house, apparently, because I don't have anything. But it's one of those movies, if someone's watching or something, I'll definitely sit there, I'll watch it, I enjoy it. It still looks pretty good in terms of the explosives, because they use miniatures.
Yes.
And so the explosions and things still look good.
CG sometimes.
Yeah, very much so. I enjoy the movie. Is it a movie that I really, really, really want a sequel to? The answer is no. It's kind of, to me, it's sort of now lodged. Maybe that's me sounding like an old man, but it's kind of lodged itself into like a special place now. It's not a good special place, not a bad special place.
It's just kind of there for you. For
years I thought, ID4 is like one of the best movies ever. Now I'm like, man, I think like Stargate's a much better movie than Independence
Jerry,
Day.
you're going a little much there.
Okay.
So
Stargate, have you ever seen Stargate?
I've never seen it, but I think
Stargate is
I guess I can't speak on comparing the two.
Same directing and writing team.
When I think of Roland Emmerich's Independence Day, I think of kind of the definition of a disaster movie and a 90s action movie. It had, that scene of when they blow up the White House, which was a miniature.
That's still a striking image.
That may be the most iconic alien destruction scene in all of cinema.
I will agree with that.
Pretty, whether you like the movie or not, that's a pretty epic scene. And as an American, to see the White House not just attacked or destroyed like in Olympus Has Fallen or White House is Down, but
blown up by aliens.
Aliens and obliterated. And there's so many cool scenes, like when the alien talks through. It was somebody in the president's cabinet.
He was played by Data, Brent Spiner.
Yeah, but who was he in the film? He was just a member of the administration, wasn't he?
No, wasn't he the...
I hadn't seen Independence Day in like
wasn't he the guy? He was
years.
The scientist who'd been stuck down there.
Okay.
Release me. Yeah.
It was also the film that really established Will Smith as the A-list action star.
I'll agree with that.
It's like, this guy can headline any action movie he wants to, and he's going to just be a total badass.
Think about how many, about 3 4th of Julys that he had movies, because the next year was Men in Black, and then the next year was Wild Wild West, which was kind of the end of his 4th of July reign. But still, he's a huge star.
Yeah.
Some people say the biggest movie star in the world.
Yeah, he is. He's so popular, and he was supposed to be in. He still is when he takes on a role. Man in Black 3, he was really great in. He did something else. I got a movie coming out this summer
with his son.
With his son,
After Earth.
After
that
Earth.
Looks very good.
M. Night Shyamalan film.
What?
Yes, it's M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay, the trailer looked good, I'll say that.
Yeah, it looks like it could be M. Night Shyamalan's return to glory. The trailer does. So, it looks really well done. But Independence Day it's definitely ingrained in 90s culture.
What if the spoiler was that After Earth is actually the sequel to Independence Day, and you don't learn it until you see...
That would be the ultimate M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Wouldn't
at
it?
The end.
Yes,
it
would. Yeah, it would be a twist.
I'm looking forward to these movies, but they're not necessary. Now, if you told me Will Smith's coming back and he's going to get us through this one more time, he's going to return to this vehicle that established him as, part of 90s culture, pretty much. Yes, I'm on board. Sign me up. Midnight showings. But I don't know if I want to see his stepson.
There's one person that I care about coming back in this movie. That's Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
If Jeff Goldblum came back, I would buy a ticket. He has
to come back.
No questions asked. I will buy a ticket if Jeff Goldblum comes back.
I'd like to see Jeff Goldblum return to Jurassic Park 4.
Oh, yeah.
2. There's a lot of stuff I like to see Jeff Goldblum.
Do you watch
Tim
and Eric? Have you ever watched Tim and Eric on Adult Swim? He plays a parody of himself on there. Jeff Goldblum plays a character named Chef Goldblum.
Yeah.
It's really strange. And he's in the Tim and Eric $1 billion movie as well, which was the last thing I've seen him in. But
we're all Jeff Goldblum fans.
Wonder what he's
How
doing
can you
now.
not be?
Wonder what he's up to. Remember the rumors that he died? And then he came on... What did he come on Conan O'Brien or something? And it was like talking about... he's like, I didn't die, but if I had, these are what people would say about me, and he did like his own eulogy.
And the thing is, Jerry has plans to go dressed as Jeff Goldblum to Jurassic Park 3D next week, right, Jerry?
I didn't, but I might now. Let me put my glasses on and now dinosaurs. All
right, so speaking of disaster movies, we'll move on from epic news and get into the latest disaster movie, which is Antoine Fuqua's Olympus Has Fallen, starring Aaron Eckhart and Morgan Freeman, and of course Gerard Butler.
Mr. President, 5 minutes, sir.
Evening, ma'am.
Merry Christmas, Mike.
Mustang, this is Big Top, bringing out the full package.
Where'd that come from?
Everybody knows you did the right thing on that bridge. Even the president knows. You gotta learn how to get back into the real world.
Mr. President, we're ready for you.
Our guests have arrived.
I'd like to welcome you to the White House, sir. Sir, there's been an intrusion.
Let's go. Move. Give me the Pentagon on the line now. Olympus Has Fallen. Olympus Has Fallen.
Alright, that was from the trailer from Antoine Fuqua's latest film, Olympus Has Fallen. Jerry, won't you sit up this action thriller disaster film for us?
All right. The movie centers around his last name is Banning. His name is Mike Banning, and he's played by Gerard Butler. He's ex-Army Special Forces. He is a Secret Service agent, and he is assigned to protect the president.
President Asher, who's played by Aaron Eckhart. And so during a night, the president is heading to a Christmas party that's also a fundraiser. From Camp David. There's an accident, and we really don't know how the accident starts. Something falls onto the road.
Yeah, something hits the windshield of a car. I'm not sure. It's supposed to be a tree branch fell.
And this is all shown in the trailer.
This is shown in the trailers, but what happens is that the president's limo is going off the edge of a bridge, and Secret Service agents are trying to hold it down to make sure it doesn't fall off. And the president is inside, and the first lady is inside, played by Ashley Judd.
Yes, and the beautiful Ashley Judd, who hasn't been in much in a while.
She was in everything for a while.
In the 90s, she was an A-list actress, like Double Jeopardy.
But anyways, I mean, she's in there, she's injured. Gerard Butler's character Manning tells the president, played by Aaron Eckhart, that he's going to get the president out, and he's going to get the first lady out. But as the car starts to teeter over the edge of the bridge, Banning pulls the president out of the car, and the first lady is killed. And that's shown in the trailer.
So we're not spoiling.
Yeah, that is in the trailer. Brad didn't remember that the first time I told him, but it is in the trailer.
Yeah, because I was writing a review for this, and I don't want to spoil that. And then Jared quickly reminded me that was in the trailer.
So the whole point of it is about how many months later?
18.
18 months later, the president is in his second term, and Banning is not working with the Secret Service anymore necessarily. He's with the Secret Service, but he doesn't work around the president anymore.
He does a desk job.
He works a desk job, I think, near the Treasury or something, or in the Treasury Department. Well, because there's this whole issue that, his superior reminds him, even though you made the right call, the president knows you made the right call, it would still be really...
It would be a reminder.
For everybody of what happened, that nobody wanted to remember that. Well, the president is working to negotiate a diplomatic solution to some problems between North and South Korea, and a South Korean diplomat... The South Korean...
It was the prime minister.
Prime minister is heading to the White House. It turns out that it's actually part of a plot by a number of groups. They quickly take over the White House.
Starting with an aerial attack.
An aerial attack over Washington, D.C., inside, which causes everyone to go down into the special presidential bunker under the White House. And from there, they're able to take over with the help of a corrupt Secret Service agent, played by Dylan McDermott, who I remembered him from... first season of American Horror Story. He's the main character on that show, the dad.
So they use ground forces to pretty much enter the White House.
And it's only about 30 or 40 guys that pop out of a bus. Like, they look like tourists, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, these are actually,
terrorists, not tourists.
Terrorists. Terrorists, not tourists. That's good. So anyways, Banning runs over and gets stuck in the White House
And goes all John McClane on.
Pretty much goes John McClane. And so the rest of the movie is him working with the Speaker of the House, who's the acting president.
Speaker Trumbull.
Played by Morgan Freeman. And they're working to decide what they need to do because these terrorists are requesting demands. They want the 7th Fleet pulled out of the Sea of Japan. They want all American forces removed from the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
That has been there since the Korean War.
Yeah, and their intention is that North Korea will come down and take over South Korea and create a unified Korea.
And it's important to note, Gerard Butler's trying to, first of all, go in and get the president's son out of the White House, and then going in to get the president. There's not too many shots of him, him trying to get the president through. He's basically trying to get to Aaron Eckhart
the whole time.
The majority of the film. So that pretty much sets everything up pretty well. So I'm just going to start with my initial reactions, and then I'll get into what will probably be a few nitpicks.
Okay.
I thought this was a great movie. Great disaster movie. Antoine Fuqua.
You keep saying disaster movie. I don't know if I would quite label it as a disaster movie.
I've seen a lot of people label it. I was kind of the same way, and a lot of people do label it as far as your Independence Day, even your Day After Tomorrow. While it's not maybe an end of the world movie,
yeah, I don't even know if I'd consider it a disaster movie. I think more if you want to even say like political thriller, I would consider a political thriller close.
Political action
thriller. It feels very. If I were talking about the movie in the kind of way I like to summarize things, this movie reminds me of Air Force One plus Die Hard plus a Tom Clancy video game. That is the way I would summarize this movie. Mix those three things together, and you get Olympus Has Fallen.
Well, okay, nitpicks or not, a lot of crap goes down. Maybe it's not technically a disaster movie like I refer to it, and a lot of people have. A lot of people also referring to the Roland Emmerich one coming up, White House Down, as a disaster
movie. A lot of people have said this is the best movie they've ever seen as well.
Well, that was just a few people, one of our friends, inside joke. But I thought it was a really great political action thriller, if you don't want to call it a disaster film. And it played the whole Die Hard element up better than a good
Day to Die Hard.
It was the latest Die Hard film. And the thing that I liked about this film, I thought it was set up very well in the beginning. So many times there are directors and writers of TV shows, movies, they okay, we want you to be invested in this fictional first family or this fictional president, his administration. But especially in movies, because TV shows you got time to set something up over the course of several episodes. Sure. We want you to invest so much into this, and just because he's the president. We're not going to give you a reason to care about him, but we get to see in Olympus Has Fallen, we have a reason to care about him. You see this horrific tragedy he suffers, and then the after effects of not only how that affects him, Aaron Eckhart and his son, but also how it affects Mike Banning, Gerard Butler, the Secret Service agent. And even though it was only a 10 to 15 minute opening scene, it got me emotionally invested in this president and his administration and his family.
I think that was a really important part, too, because you're right. It gets you emotionally invested. We saw some really brief but some strong interaction with the president and his wife and his son, and the way he interacted with the Secret Service agents, and it very much humanized him. It very much made you respect him and care for him and see him as both a leader but as a person as well. And I think that was really important and why the movie works, just because of that strong opening.
A great word, humanize him. Even before the accident, we seen boxing with Gerard Butler, Mike Banning. Just kind of like, hey, this guy's he's maybe the president, but he's an everyday guy, And it's whether I don't want to get political, but a lot of people don't like Barack Obama politically, but they see him maybe make an appearance on ESPN. They know he's into sports. He likes golf. He even, held like a Star Wars party at the White House for his kids. They're like, whether you're a geek or a jock or whatever, it's like, oh, he relates to us. Whether he does or not, I don't know. Maybe it's just a really good job of him humanizing himself. But it makes people who may even hate Barack Obama politically say, I like him personally, even though I'm not going to vote for him. You heard a lot of people say that in the 2012 election. And I believe that's the way President Asher was in this film. He was very humanized and likable from the outset, which made all the horror and turmoil he would face throughout the course of this film all the more relevant, all the more meaningful. And the relationship between he and Gerard Butler is really established and means more as well.
Yes, very much so.
Instead of just, oh, this guy's just a badass Secret Service agent. No, there's a reason.
Here's two guys who respect each other.
And have an emotional connection.
Yeah, and have a very different, you get the idea that, Manning is there with the family all the time. He's good friends with the son. With the son. He helps to raise the son and teach the son, and he's a part of their life as well. He's not just a bodyguard. Yes, exactly. He is very much a part of the. And when you're a president, and it's covered on a lot of shows like 24 or The West Wing, they become very close with their Secret Service agents. They're with those people all the time, so it makes a sense that it would be portrayed that way. Which president required that his Secret Service agent slept in bed with him? You're the history major. Who was it? It's been years. It's been it was like in the 1800s, I think, or early 1900s. But there was a president who required that was it Lincoln? No, I don't. Yeah, I believe it was Lincoln who one of his Secret Service agents had to sleep in bed with him. Really? I think that's true. Well, there's also some gay Abraham Lincoln rumors that's always been out there too. I don't know if that we'll have to look that up. Contribute to it, but just interesting. That is interesting, but that is a very close Secret Service to President relationship, Jerry. So this wasn't that close. Aaron Eckhart and Gerard Butler didn't wake up together. That may be a whole different set of problems for this administration. They were sweaty and breathing hard at the beginning, but that's because they were boxing. Yes, that's the only reason. They were not in bed together before the film started. All right, but Jerry, there's so many things I want to talk about this film, about how this whole plot, the attack plot, unfolded, and how to kind of nitpick some of the action scenes. But for that, I think we need to go ahead and roll the reel forward to spoilers. Okay, so spoilers for Olympus Has Fallen starting now. Jerry, let's talk about the double cross where the Koreans kind of get all how they are able to get into the White House. Just kind of sit that up. Okay. So what happens is that the main villain who what was I can't remember his name, and I can't remember the actor's name, but he was the same guy who played who was in Die Another Day, right? I believe so. And you're maybe thinking, why don't we look this stuff up? We do not have internet access tonight, right now. So don't blame us for that. Sorry. So. Anyways, as a child, he saw his parents killed in different ways during some of the conflict that was happening between North and South Korea, and so he escaped as a young man and ended up working in the South Korean government. And so over time, he was able to get contacts and find people. They make it very clear he's not working directly for North Korea. He's not working for South Korea. He is a terrorist with his own agenda. A guy who had never been seen on camera at this point. He wants a unified Korea. Yes. So anyways, the plan is that they send a plane over Washington, D.C. to cause all kinds of chaos and turmoil. They're just kind of randomly and indiscriminately shooting things. That causes the president to go to his bunker, which the president takes the South Korean prime minister and his staff with him, which gives them the ability to have them in a confined space and to take over and take the president and his staff hostage. Yes, and that's when it unfolds in the bunker that this guy is a terrorist indeed, and he kills the South Korean. He killed the South Korean prime minister. He killed the vice president. He went through the. Didn't he kill some random secretaries and stuff too? Yeah, he did. He killed a lot of random people, and he would have killed more. But he's doing this because he wants to gain access to Cerberus,
With Cerebrus is a computer program that sounds like Cerebra from the X-Men movies, but it's not. It's Cerebrus.
Well, Cerberus was the three-headed dog who guarded Hades in Greek mythology.
Which makes sense because you need
this
the
was
three codes.
Three codes, and would allow, if these three codes were entered, which the president had one, the Secretary of Defense had one, and a high-ranking military official, maybe it was...
was it the chairman of the Joint Chiefs?
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs had one. And so the idea was if they all entered their codes, it would allow them to halt any nuclear missiles that were fired and destroy them in case a nuke ever got accidentally launched. Well, the terrorist plot is that if he has those codes, he can blow up all the missiles while they're still in their silos in the U.S.
And pretty much blast us back to the Stone Age with our own nukes. The fallout would, leave America as a wasteland.
He blames the U.S. involvement in the Korean War for making poverty in both countries, and he wants the U.S. to experience the same kind of poverty and hopelessness.
I really thought Cerebrus was a clever concept. At first, I thought it was going to be the nuclear launch codes. Mm-hmm. And then you get to thinking, well, North Korea already has access to... They have nukes. They can launch their nukes. They could arguably reach the West Coast. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe not, but some people believe they can. It's a difference of opinion. So they weren't coming in here to take over the nukes of the United States, which is what I thought at first. It was the nuclear launch codes. We've seen that a million times in movies.
Oh, yeah.
TV shows. But it wasn't. It was a kind of a clever way to kind of use that same plot device, but in a different shade.
Sure.
So they get all the codes and all that stuff. They go through. He's trying to get the codes. But, of course, they wouldn't be able to get to all this Cerebra stuff without the attack. I want to talk about the attack on Washington.
Let's talk about it, because I think you're probably going to say this is the weakest part of the movie.
This is the thing that kept it from being an epic movie, because everything that goes on before the attack and after the attack is by far, to me, confirmed epic.
Yeah.
It was just... I deducted, some creds from this movie because of this attack scene. And Jerry will counter this, probably. He wasn't as hard on it as I was. I had two problems with it. Number one, I thought the CG was... I thought it was pretty bad. Yeah. Specifically one scene where the Washington Monument is shot and it doesn't completely fall. It falls in half.
Yeah.
The top of it
they kind of destroy part of the middle, and it kind of crumbles from the top
almost
up.
Almost like pulling a middle thing from a Jenga.
Yeah, it never destroys itself totally, never tumbles over.
Yes, and everything in CG, you can tell it's not like, I don't know, it was a $70 million budget, which, as I pointed out in my review, is usually half the budget of your typical movie like this.
Yeah.
Like White House is down.
It's $150 million rumored to
so
be.
It's $150 million. So it's obviously going to look like this was Film District here. I mean, It's not Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So as this thing's falling, I'm thinking, and this is a little harsh, I will admit. I said this looks like a cut scene from a PlayStation 2 or Xbox game, not an Xbox 360, an Xbox game. I thought it was like appalling. I thought the CGI people below it didn't look great at all. I didn't like that. The CG overall is not good, but that was the one scene where I was like, it just looks bad.
Yeah.
It's the Washington Monument.
I will say it was not the best CG, and, it can be hard for a movie doing a scene like that. There's chaotic and there's messy. And those are two different things. They were trying for chaotic.
And they got messy.
I think that was definitely the weakest point of the movie for me.
Yes, and another problem I had with it is kind of the way this whole... Not how they infiltrated the government, because that was explained. This terrorist had never been seen on camera, so it would make sense he would be able to walk through the front door imitating a South Korean government official. Mm-hmm. It was more or less how, after the fact, the people... bombarded the White House. Okay, It was after an aerial assault, which I get that. I had a problem with the aerial assault because this one kind of
missile launcher, like a missile battery that pops up from the White House, only seems to have two missiles in it.
Yes.
And That's it.
the plane that it looks like a World War II fighter plane. The plane that the Koreans are using.
It was very unassuming.
Yes, the plane that the North Koreans or the terrorists are using to attack the White House, and of course you have the two fighter jets come in to take it out. It hits one on the side. Okay, first of all, if this happened in real life, one of those fighter jets may go up to it. One of them would hang back in case it got took out. They both go up beside it and get utterly obliterated. But hey, I'm willing to suspend, a disbelief a little bit. It's a movie.
Yeah, you have to suspend disbelief in the, during the initial assault, and then it all works out.
Well, when so after all this aerial assault, the guys walk through the freaking front door of the White House. Of course, this is, when the president's safe in his bunker at this point. Well, he thinks he's safe in his bunker at this point. And I've seen so many, not so many, but for 24, for example, in 24, I believe it's season 7, maybe season 8, one of the last 2 seasons of 24, terrorists attack the White House and they go in and they take it over, much like in this film. They don't destroy it, they hold the president hostage. And they get through, they sneak in, they're very covert, they go through this whole entire process. It's all explained why they're able to do this. They come through the sewer system of the White House. They come through the Chesapeake Bay and come up under the White House, and it's very, very well shot and well done for a TV show. Whereas in a $70 million action film, Olympus Has Fallen, they walk through the front door.
Well, they had a busload of people out there, and they looked unassuming. You didn't really think anything. You just had a plane that had massive guns, was just drilling down everything, so emergency services are all over the place.
But how about how these people appeared out of these buses? Because there were buses sitting outside of the White House, right? That looked like unassuming.
But they showed everybody in them earlier. You saw all these.
Were they buses or were they like...
They were like tourist buses.
Okay.
So...
I didn't know if they were that or like tractor trailers.
They were like tourist buses and stuff, but they had other people plotting. Once again, I mean...
But Jerry, the tourist bus turns into something that a turret is being fired out of.
No, that was one of the garbage trucks.
Well, okay, so that's what I was thinking. There were garbage trucks who were near the White House. Okay, first of all, you can't go up and park any car.
Now remember, that didn't happen before. That happened after the folks had already run inside, and the garbage trucks came... busted their wheel. They had something detonated so that they didn't have wheels, so they couldn't move them, and they created barriers afterwards, but before the military could respond. And they talked about the terrorists said, your military, can get here
20 minutes.
In 15 minutes.
Was it 15?
We did this in 13 minutes. So they had it planned out.
Yes, they did.
For their movie logic.
Yes, for their movie logic, they did have it planned out. But I've seen it done in more realistic ways.
Sure.
But maybe that's not what the film was going for. So that's just my personal taste that the film's not pleasing rather than being, this sucks.
I think if this were a super realistic film...
like White House Down,
you would have a harder time just having fun and enjoying it. Because let's focus on the big part. As soon as they take over the White House and Gerard Butler's the lone man inside...
This is when the film takes off.
This is when it takes off, because Brad said it earlier, I'll say it again, this movie felt more like Die Hard than Die Hard, Good Day to Die Hard did. I mean, it's one guy inside a closed, confined location. He's communicating with someone from the outside. He's having to constantly fight and work his way to gain, every little inch that he can of ground.
First trying to get the sun, and then trying to get the president.
Oh, I mean, he's having to gain weapons. He's having to gain intel. He's figuring out how to shut off cameras that he doesn't want on. So it makes it really exciting.
He's very smart when he does it.
Gerard, I mean, he knows the White House inside and out. He knows the secret passages. He knows how to operate all the systems to it. He knows every hall and every corridor. He knows the Secret Service agents who are inside. Really well done. It feels like a game of, instead of cat and mouse, it's a game of mouse and cat. That, he's kind of in the weaker position, but he's constantly overcoming bigger odds to achieve his goal, and that made a really exciting movie. Gerard Butler really excels in kind of these action roles. He's believable. He's interesting in them,
and he does all this while making witty interactions with the villains of the film and with the authority figures such as the Speaker of the House, Morgan Freeman.
Absolutely.
And I believe it's Robert Forster, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs in this film. And it reminded you so much of the way John McClane interacted with the FBI in the first Die Hard, and how he interacted with Hans Gruber in the first Die Hard.
Very much so.
And it really was kind of a callback to that. And as much as I sit here and nitpick the CG of this film, but I think having not a low budget, we're not talking about making of the Evil Dead for $10,000.
Sure.
There's a $70 million budget. But that's half the price that most films like this cost. Instead of focusing on the disaster aspect of the film and the turmoil this destruction of the White House created, you then focus on character-driven action, which is what this film is what excels at. And if you're just giving that a rating, oh my gosh, epic.
Exciting.
And Gerard Butler, I wouldn't call him, he's not a B actor. He's not your A-list. He's not like Leonardo DiCaprio or Christian Bale or somebody like that. But he's a really good action actor.
Yeah,
and,
he plays those roles well.
Yes, he does. He does. And I don't know if you law-abiding citizen, which
I haven't seen that.
He's in that with Jamie Foxx. He's great, and of course everybody knows him as King Leonidas.
In 300.
And unfortunately, Gerard Butler, he kind of blasted. He was around before, but he really blasted on the scene with that role as King Leonidas. And then he does these romantic comedies and that and stuff. And if this guy did straight action, we could be talking about, this generation. He would be more on level or seen more like The Rock is, or maybe even better than The Rock. I believe he's a better actor than The Rock. But
I would compare him I would compare Gerard Butler more to a Bruce Willis than The Rock.
Yeah, but Bruce Willis is kind of like, I'm not Bruce Willis, sorry, The Rock's like the big action star now.
Yeah.
And I believe if Gerard Butler did more roles like that, he would supplant The Rock as the kind of big action star.
Sure, but I'm thinking of less the big,
burly guy.
Ridiculous.
And he's in great shape.
Yeah, he's in great shape, but he reminds me more of a Bruce Willis than a Schwarzenegger.
Yes, whereas The Rock is more of a Schwarzenegger type. I totally agree with that statement, Jerry. And another thing about this film, I believe the White House is Down, the other one coming out later this year, is going to be PG-13. This was a hard R action thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, much like, I hate to keep bringing up Die Hard, but much like the R-rated Die Hards, the first three R-rated Die Hards, not the last one.
The last one wasn't rated R?
The last one was R.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Only the fourth one was PG-13. I'm saying the first three are good R-rated Die Hard movies. But, I mean, he's brutally taking people out. He's stabbing everybody in the head.
He's using a knife very liberally.
Yeah, this is not a film for kind of the weak stomach. Definitely not.
But it's definitely not as violent as I saw a lot of reviewers seem to make it out to be. I was thinking something more along the disturbing lines of the Rambo 4.
Yes.
Where it's a very disturbing...
It's a big body count.
Yeah. But it is much closer to the kind of violence you would have seen in like the first Expendables or, something along those lines, or the earlier Die Hards. It's not something that's like gruesome or disturbingly violent like most like war movies or something like that.
We talked about Gerard Butler. We love him in this movie. We love Ashley Judd for the brief moment she's in this film. I mean, Morgan Freeman's Morgan Freeman. Yeah. I mean, you can use the 25th. That guy can be the president any day of the week. I mean, you can invoke the 25th Amendment on him every time. It doesn't matter any type of role he takes. I mean, he's going to knock
Morgan
it out
Freeman.
of the park.
Yeah.
He's Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
So I don't think we really need to spend time praising his performance. But, of course, as always, it was epic. But Aaron Eckhart. Let's talk about him as President Asher. What'd you think of him? Did you buy it?
I'd vote for him. Yeah.
I mean, I believe in President Asher.
Yeah, I
believe in Aaron Eckhart.
I was waiting for him to one of the terrorists to pull out a gun and him kind of pull it away from him and say next time you go to assassinate an American official, I suggest you buy American.
Of course, this line from The Dark Knight is Harvey
He's
Dent.
his public official there.
He's good at playing these suit and tie roles, isn't he?
Yeah, he has a lot of character to it, and I'll tell you, one of the funniest roles I actually saw Aaron Eckhart in was there was an episode of Frasier where he plays this boyfriend of a woman Frasier likes, and he's kind of this hippie nature guy, but he's just so good-natured and so likable, even though he's supposed to be Frasier's rival in it. And I think it's the whole thing is Aaron Eckhart always comes across as just so unbelievably likable.
Yes, which made the turn in The Dark Knight so much more effective.
Yeah, very much so. And in this movie, I mean, he is, you can see, even though he's concerned about his son, he's concerned about what's happening, he remains strong and
like you would want the president to do.
For the people around him, as the military officers and maybe the Secretary of Defense and other people, Secretary of State, as they are, sort of going through this awful time, he's building them up. He's trying to encourage them to stay strong. He doesn't want anything to happen to them.
And the fact that he's so likable makes all the hell he's put through in this film, it makes it work all the better. But I mean, Aaron Eckhart, any kind of suit and tie role, he makes those roles very likable like he does any. And I mean, he's great in this film. He's a believable president. Yeah. I just want to, I hate to go back to a negative comment, but I got to talk about this. Okay, they have the president held hostage, okay? And all of it, of course, they killed the vice president. So the Speaker of the House, who I believe is the opposite party, because you can tell from the beginning it's inferred they disagree on how to handle this Korean situation. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs are kind of calling the shots when all this attacks went down. Mm-hmm. And the demands of the terrorists are to remove the 7th Fleet and to get rid of all the troops in the DMZ. Mm-hmm. And they said, if you do this, we'll let President Asher go. Okay. I don't care. If this happened in real life, no way in hell. I don't care who the president is. If he's the most likable president ever, most 100% approval rating, there's no way that the United States is pulling people out of the DMZ, removing the 7th Fleet. They may bluff it, but they're not going to actually do that, which they could.
Army forces, they talk about how much how much ramifications it had for American security, with North Korea coming in and taking over South Korea. In the movie, they set it up that it could happen in 72 hours without American presence there. So, yeah, I think you're right. They really showed... I mean, they had to build up drama, but they had the government in charge doing some very crazy things.
I mean, it's just stuff... And the thing is, no president, Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, no president, no matter what party, and I don't believe President Asher in this film would want them to do this. They wouldn't want them to negotiate with terrorists. That's like the number one rule.
And he says that at one point, don't negotiate with them.
It's the golden rule of the United States foreign policy.
We're not talking about one, release one person or something. They're wanting to change the face of,
they're talking about
the globe.
Unraveling, decades and decades of foreign policy work from the Korean War until now.
Sure.
And that is, it's movie. You suspend some disbelief, but come on, you're setting yourself up as a political thriller. You have to have some rules of political reality and ramifications of foreign policy moves to make stuff like this more effective. And I just thought that was complete and utter bull. I'm sorry. And that was one of the things that hurt the film with me. But you got to judge this movie by Gerard Butler going in to get the president. And on that, we agree, Jerry, that part is epic, but the things like the CG, the kind of, not so much even how they get into the White House, that's kind of a personal thing on my part, but kind of unrealistic portrayal of United States foreign policy kind of keep this film from reaching epic status.
Yeah.
Although it has epic scenes and epic performances even. So, Jerry, what would you rate this film?
I'm saying it's great. It's a great film. I think, that's the equivalent of about 4 stars, and it's a great movie.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I would definitely want to watch this again.
Yeah, definitely a movie I may even buy on Blu-ray at some point. I'm sure it will sound great on a home surround sound system, a lot of explosions and stuff like that. But if you read my review, I confirmed it a great as well. Jerry, I want to talk about one aspect kind of leading in the summer movie season that Olympus Has Fallen. We kind of have the Armageddon Deep Impact Syndrome. We have two movies. Okay.
The Volcano Dante's Peak Syndrome.
Exactly. 2 movies with the exact same material.
Snow White and the Huntsman and Mirror Mirror Syndrome.
Yes. Olympus Has Fallen is off to a great start. We confirmed it great. The trailer for this week for White House Down, Roland Emmerich's film, where Jamie Foxx plays the president and Channing Tatum will pretty much be playing the role Gerard Butler did as a Secret Service agent, was released this week. We would play that trailer for you, but there's not much. It's mainly just music, not too much interaction audio. So that's why we're not playing it. But it looks like that film's going to focus more on him interacting with the president and getting him out.
And the level of destruction looks a lot bigger, too.
Yes, it does. Would you say it's a disaster movie?
I'd say it looks like a disaster movie.
Okay, so, Jerry, now that you've seen Olympus Has Fallen, and you did check out the trailer for White House Down.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? How are you kind of viewing a White House Down at this point?
It looks good. I kind of feel like at this point, I sort of feel like a been there, done that. I've seen that movie in a sense. I don't know that it's going to be as fun of a movie as this one was. I think White House Down is going to try to be more serious. I think it's going to try to be overly patriotic. I think it's going to be very melodramatic, where this was an action movie. This one made you you made you pissed off that people were going to go in and try to, kill the president. But it didn't dwell on anything too serious. It was a action movie.
A fun action
movie. It was a very fun action movie.
This one definitely does look like it's a more serious tone. And it's Channing Tatum. He's an interesting guy. A lot of course, women love the guy to death. But, he's a pretty decent actor, I will say. He's pretty much approached A-list based on his look.
Yeah, the only thing I have seen him in, honestly, is G.I. Joe.
He wasn't that great.
So I can't say that I think he's a good actor, but I haven't seen him in anything else.
21 Jump Street.
I've heard he's funny. I've heard he's good at comedy.
He can play hilarious.
But I don't know, that I could sit there and... I think he was one of the weakest parts of G.I. Joe, the original G.I. Joe movie. I think he's one of the weakest parts of it.
I will say, and Jared doesn't agree with this as much as I do, but I thought that the trailer for White House Down toward the end, when it actually shows the scenes of Channing Tatum trying to get Jamie Foxx, who's the president, I thought he looked like a total badass. I thought he looked really John McClane.
I didn't say that he didn't, but
he did.
I don't know that I'm
kind of echoing my sentiment there with that.
Yeah, I don't know that I can kind of...
I'm looking forward to it. I love Deep Impact. And Armageddon is one of my favorite movies of all time. Jerry doesn't like that movie.
Nope.
So, it is possible to like both. I don't think... Of course, everybody's going to have the one they prefer.
Yeah.
But I believe you can really enjoy them. And I think I'm going to like White House Down a little better, because I believe it's got the problems that I had as far as CG and kind of unbelievable plot points, especially with foreign policy, will not be an issue in White House Down. But on the same token, it's a more expensive film. It's going to be a more serious film, so I could see why people maybe won't have as much fun with it.
Yeah.
But it will be so fun when we get to review that film and talk about it and compare the two once we have both ends of the spectrum. And probably around that time, Olympus Has Fallen will be out on Blu-ray and DVD. So maybe we can...
that'd be hilarious if it came out like the week of and people
if we could do like a double feature, like watch Olympus Has Fallen and then go watch White House Down. I think
Oh,
that
that'd
would be
interesting.
fun.
It'd be interesting.
I mean, hopefully, we'll have to look up the release date for that. But, so we confirmed Olympus Is Down is great. I'm looking really forward to White House Down. You mentioned Overly Patriotic. It's coming out June 28th, right around 4th of July time. So, you know, you always get that. Kind of like the same time Die Hard 4 was released, and that movie was set at the 4th of July. And Independence Day, the same thing.
Yeah,
and I believe this will be the same thing, probably set at the 4th of July. And face it, we're all feeling overly patriotic on the 4th of July. This is a movie maybe you go watch the fireworks, and then you check out some Roland Emmerich disaster. It sounds like it will be one of the highlights of my summer.
Worse.
And for your women, you know, you get to see Channing Tatum run around, you girls out there. So, who knows? Maybe this is the movie that establishes Channing Tatum as this big action star. I mean, who knows?
Could be.
I'm really looking forward to it. One of my most anticipated films of the summer.
I think the only thing that could make this year more complete is if they finally made a movie adaptation of the video game Bad Dudes, which begins with the line, "The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude?"
No, that's the plot of G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Oh, is it the plot of G.I. Joe Retaliation?
No, just
but G.I. Joe Retaliation has... The president is being held hostage.
So
there's another character who, remember, because G.I. Joe has the scenes of the White House being covered with the Cobra logos, because some people are trying to forget G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. But in that movie, Zartan, the character that was infected with nanomites, he actually had taken over the president's identity. And so as G.I. Joe Retaliation begins, Zartan is going to be the president. He's in disguise as the president. So that's a lot of movies this year that give us surprisingly these images of the White House being destroyed, the White House being overtaken, the White House being overthrown with Cobra logos, and it's just kind of interesting. I'm sure a better political analyst than I could make sense of that and say, why is Hollywood pandering that image out this year? I don't know.
I think maybe it kind of can give people the feeling of flipping the kind of leadership of the United States on its head, because so many people complain about it, whether it's Congress or whether it's the president. We take it for granted and we complain about it, but what if all that was taken away and destroyed?
Absolutely.
And then, you look at the trouble it would cause society. What would happen? Of course, these movies deal with that happening. It'd be interesting to hear people will do it. We'll analyze in the future what impact do these films have after all this would happen. Sure. Like, what happens in the fallout of Olympus Has Fallen? Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine the impact that has on the country. It's obviously going to be almost like a post 9/11 mindset all over again, like uber patriotic. But that's enough of breaking down political action thrillers at a graduate school level. So, Jerry, I think that's just about going to wrap us up this week. Jerry, where can we find more of your stuff this week?
Obviously, I'm writing lots of reviews on theepicreview.com, but also check out my Flickr page at www.flickr.com/photos/barbecue17.
As for me, you can find all of my stuff on Twitter at TheRealBradBell, REEL Brad Bell. And you can check the Facebook page for Breaking Epic News Daily. Just search TH Epic Review. And of course, you can always email us, the site, and the show at thepicreview@gmail.com. And of course, we cannot end the show without giving you the From Here to HeroCon word of the week. Gina unfortunately couldn't be here this week, going out of town for a spring break. But Jerry, what is the From Here to HeroCon word of the week?
Gina Beaner says the word of the week is chain. CHAIN. Chain.
So on that note, from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we are out.